So the numbers, looking backwards, sales and EPS both beating estimates. I guess people are asking how repeatable is this? How sustainable is it? What's your sense?
Yeah, we are very pleased about the results, and importantly, we are very pleased about the recovery we have seen. So if you look at our pharma business, we were still declining 9% in the first quarter, and we are up now by 4% in the second quarter. So a strong recovery, and this is driven by our newly launched medicines. And likewise, on the diagnostic side, yes, there was an impact from COVID-19 testing, but there was also a very strong growth of what we call our base diagnostics business, up by 30%. So whilst we expect growth rates for COVID-19 testing to decline in the second half of the year, we remain very confident to reach our outlook based on the strong performance of the underlying business.
So that message that's interesting. So it's about the base diagnostics, not just the COVID testing, and it's about new drugs. But if I just want to delve a little more deeply into the guidance you're giving around the COVID tests today, and you say that in the second half of the year, they're likely to be lower. I just wonder, talk me through the rationale there, because if in many richer countries we're going to have to learn to live with the virus, that might mean less quarantine and more testing. And in emerging markets, we are seeing, of course, this is still a very present threat. So why do you think you'll sell fewer tests in the second half?
First of all, I should say that there are significant uncertainties how the pandemic will evolve, how the Delta virus will evolve, what impact it will have in terms of severity, mortality. But what we also have to look at is the relative growth versus the previous year. And that's important to understand, because last year, in the first half of 2020, our COVID-19 testing levels were relatively low, and it really surged in the second half of last year. So a year-on-year comparison means that even if there is continued COVID-19 testing, the growth rate versus previous year in the first half is much higher than we should expect for the second half. And this base effect is also a key reason why we expect growth rates in COVID-19 testing to come down into the second half. But I should say, again, the recovery of the underlying business is very strong, and that's why we remain very optimistic for the full year.
You're working on a COVID antiviral pill together with a US biotech. Assuming clinical trials go well, what's your kind of optimistic targeted timeline for that coming to market? And what's your production capacity for making that this year and next?
We are still in phase 2 trials. We are still optimizing the dose, but we aim for phase 3 results, definite results by the end of the year. So let's keep fingers crossed that we see positive results here. And there is no doubt that the virus will stay with us. Not everybody will get vaccinated. And as a result, there is also a need for other medicines, including this particular project we are working on.
You've talked this morning about the cancer business, so away from the coronavirus, Severin, but impacted by it, of course. You've talked about what is happening in the cancer market, and you say you're not back to pre-COVID levels. I wonder how much below pre-COVID levels we are, and what assumptions you're making for the number of people who will come forward and seek treatment for cancers, given the threats posed still by the Delta variant in the second half.
Indeed, we are not yet back. Patients are still hesitating to visit their doctor or go to the hospital, which is really a big concern, not so much for our business, but simply for the fact that if you diagnose cancer at a later stage, there's much less you can do about it. The earlier you catch a cancer, the better. So indeed, we see not all patients showing up as they did pre-COVID. Often the cancer is detected at a later stage. And we hope that this will improve over the coming months. But a very important point, affects us for our business, but most importantly, this is really extremely important for patients to make sure that they are not coming too late to treat their disease.
Severin, I'm looking for a little bit more kind of detailed thoughts around your timeline or hope for timeline around your Alzheimer's drug. And I guess, does the approval of Biogen's Alzheimer's drug provide you with much more optimism, or does the subsequent backlash there make you a little bit more nervous on the timeline? How are you reading that situation or that kind of feed through?
We have a very robust, well-designed clinical trial underway for our medicine in this space called gantenerumab. We expect the results in the second half next year. And whatever the outcome of this trial will be, we know that there will be a definitive answer of whether we can offer a differentiated, clinically relevant medicine or not. So it will all depend on the clinical data, on the outcome of this study. So let's keep fingers crossed that we can do something for patients who suffer from this terrible disease.
Severin, we're speaking to a lot of CEOs about inflation this quarter because it is such a big theme in markets broadly for many businesses. I'm not sure if there are input costs into your business where you see a great deal of inflation, but I also wonder in your industry about wages and whether wage pressures are building.
We clearly see inflation now in the United States in particular, and we have to respond to that to remain competitive in the marketplace. So yes, we are also impacted by those overall economic developments. But at the end of the day, what really matters for us from a business point of view is to which degree we are ready and able to constantly rejuvenate our pipeline. And let me just say here how excited I am about the recent progress we made in our product pipeline. We have now 18 new molecular entities in late-stage development. That's an absolute record for our company. We had already an industry-leading pipeline. So that's what really counts, and that will drive our mid- and long-term success.